Hello and welcome to episode 44 of the Wisdom from the Akasha podcast. My name is Susie. I am your host and I am an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner. Today I am going to be giving you 10 of the many reasons why I think that you should learn how to go into your Akashic Records, how to get information from them, and how to work with your Akashic Records along your spiritual journey. In 2025, I am going to be introducing some new modules in respect of your own personal practice in the Akashic Records. So I already have level 1 training and that's going to start in February. But for those of you who have maybe already trained with me, or you've trained with somebody else, or you've self-taught, and you've got an experience in the Akashic Records, but you want to deepen your own personal practice, do keep an eye out on the website, on my social media. I will announce it here on the podcast as well for the different modules that I'm going to be bringing in to help you deepen your own personal practice. I'm really excited to be making these as an offering to you all for 2025 because there's only so much that I can cover in a 6-part level 1 class, and level 1 is very much just about you getting started, developing that initial relationship, learning how to receive answers, and also how to do some healing and clearing and some soul retrieval work in there. There is a lot already in level 1. What I often find is that even people who have trained in level 1 with me don't realize how many different ways that they can use their Akashic Records. It's not just for the purposes that we cover in level 1. So I'm super excited to be able to share these modules with you. As always, I consult with my own Akashic Records business guides, and these were the modules that they wanted to bring through for 2025. If you haven't trained with me yet, don't worry. There is the opportunity to do level 1 with me in February of 2025. The new modules will be after March 2025, so plenty of time to learn how to go into and get information from the Akashic Records, and then to deepen your practice with me in the spring and summer of 2025. Let's get into 10 of the reasons why. I've limited this to 10. I could talk about this all day. And if you would like another episode on more reasons why, then just let me know in the comments. But I thought I would give you 10 to start to consider and start to see if you think that the Akashic Records might be helpful for you. Number 1 is for those of you who are feeling the calling to become Akashic Records readers or do healing and clearing work in the Akashic Records, it is essential that you learn how to work in your own Akashic Records first. By learning how to go into your own Akashic Records and working with your own Akashic Records, you're developing a relationship with the Akashic Records. And this is essential if you want to then go on and help others with this work. It's a lot harder to put the ego to one side when you're working in your own Akashic Records than it is for reading or doing clearing work for others. And a lot of people will want to focus only on reading for others and not continue on with their own Akashic Records work. But you're going to learn a lot more about yourself and you're going to deepen your relationship to the Akashic Records if you do continue on with that self-practice. Reason number 2 is so that you can still receive some help and guidance when you are in the void. The void is a completely normal part of the spiritual journey when you are called to go inwards, you're called to do the inner work. And when this happens, it's very normal for your everyday astral spirit guides to take a little bit of a step back and allow you to do that inner work. If, however, you're familiar with and use your Akashic Records, you're still able to get guidance from the Akashic Records even when you're going through this void stage of the awakening journey. And it can be quite reassuring to people because often they will feel that when they're in the void, their guides have left them, they've fallen out with them, they have maybe lost their ability to connect into higher guidance and higher wisdom. By being able to go into your Akashic Records during that energy, It reassures you that actually, no, that isn't the case. Your everyday and astral guides have just taken a little bit of a step back to help you do the work and that inner processing that the void energy creates space for. Reason number 3 is just why not? Why wouldn't you learn how to work with your Akashic Records? If you're on your spiritual journey and you want to evolve and grow, and we have this amazing resource available to us, why wouldn't you want to learn? The Akashic Records are a vast multi-purpose tool that you can use no matter where you are on your spiritual journey. You don't have to be perfect, whatever that means. You don't have to be an enlightened master or anything like this. Your Akashic Records are available to you as soon as they come into your conscious awareness. The very fact you're listening to a podcast that's all about the Akashic Records is a sign that they are in your awareness and that you are at the level of consciousness that you need to be able to access and work with your Akashic Records. Everyone absolutely has the right and the ability to work with their own Akashic Records. Even if you don't feel called to read for other people, you're not going to do this as a business, that's completely okay. You don't have to. But every single person has the right and the ability to access their Akashic Records. It's a soul's birthright during an incarnation to be able to access this information and this guidance and this amazing healing energy. Reason number 4 is to strengthen your intuition and your energetic protection. Let me explain. So, you will have heard me talk about the fact that the Akashic Records is a form of channeling because the information is coming from outside of you, but it is your intuition, your internal guidance system that receives and interprets that information. The more time that you spend in your Akashic Records, the more time you're spending strengthening, connecting to, and evolving that intuition, that internal guidance system. This strengthens that magnetic center that you hear me talk about, which is going to attract into you the right teachers, the right practices, the right life situations that you need to continue on with your evolution and your growth. It's also going to strengthen your energetic protection. Every time you go into your Akashic Records, as part of the process, you're asking for energetic protection whilst you are in that very high frequency. The more time you spend in the Akashic Records, the more you're going into higher frequencies. Going into higher frequencies itself is energetic protection because it's taking you out of the frequency of the lower levels of consciousness. On top of that, what happens is the more time you spend in there, it creates this kind of energetic shield in your light grid so that whilst you are going through certain life situations, that you have this energetic protection to help you until such time as you evolve to a level of consciousness where you no longer need any form of formal protection. Reason number 5 is that you just want to understand yourself from this bigger picture, soul level, objective perspective that the Akashic Records offers. When you go through your spiritual awakening, you start to see there's much more to the story of your life, much more to the story of your soul than just this one incarnation. And you can start to see that perhaps there's different patterns, perhaps there are certain karmas that you have brought forward, certain contracts that you have in play. It helps you be able to take a step back and see these for what they are. Before your spiritual awakening, you tend to be in a level of consciousness where life is just happening to you and you're just a victim of the circumstances of the soul contracts that you've made, the karma that you've carried forward, etc. Whereas when you start working with your Akashic Records, you're able to take that step back, detach a little bit, and be able to say, right, okay, what is the lesson here? And sometimes we're not able to fully understand or see the lesson with our logical, rational mind. The mind is not designed to understand things from a multidimensional, higher consciousness perspective. The mind is designed to pick up information and interpret it through the lens of our conditioning and programming. That's it. So if you want to start understanding yourself from that multi-dimensional higher level consciousness perspective, which is much more objective, the Akashic Records are a great tool to help you do this. Number 6 is that you want to not only understand yourself from this more objective perspective, but you also want to understand your soul's journey, not just what has happened in this current lifetime and the programming and conditioning that you've experienced in this lifetime, but your soul's journey since it left source. This can be really beneficial information if you have certain things that happen in this lifetime and you just can't quite explain why. A good example of this is the witch wounding. If you haven't listened to the episode on witch wounding, definitely go and listen to that one because it's going to go into more detail. But witch wounding essentially is when you have a deep-seated fear of showing up as your authentic, intuitive self. The people who carry the witch wound have had lifetimes where they've been persecuted, often to the point of being killed, because of their intuitive gifts and because of them being their authentic selves. When you can understand certain things that have happened to you in previous lifetimes, this in itself can be very healing. Sometimes we need to go deeper, and sometimes we need to help move the energetic stagnation from the light grid that appears because of these types of past life traumas, ancestral issues that we've taken. And that's where you can go into your Akashic Records and you can start working with your own light grid to heal and clear the energetic stagnation that has been caused. This bigger picture perspective involves zooming out and seeing yourself as a culmination of all the incarnations that you have had up until this point and all the incarnations that you will have from this point. All of that information can be very, very helpful to ensure not only does your soul achieve what it wants to achieve during this incarnation, but that it's on the right track. It's in alignment to that evolutionary stream of consciousness. Number 7 goes with number 6, but rather than looking at the traumas and experiences and ancestral wounding that we've taken on, number 7 is all about understanding and activating past life gifts and skills. This is a really fun part of the Akashic Records because oftentimes people will come to me and they will say, I feel really drawn to study this particular modality, or I'm really called to work with this specific spiritual system. And when we look into the Akashic Records, they of course have had previous incarnations where they have worked with these paths, practices, and systems. What happens when they start to work with those systems in this incarnation is it has an activating effect on their past life gifts and skills that they have brought through. Oftentimes, they will come to learn a specific system, say come to learn the Akashic Records, and it's a very natural process for them because they're essentially picking up with that practice or system from where they left off in a previous incarnation. Not only that, lots of you will have been working on developing new systems, new practices in previous incarnations, and oftentimes it can take a number of incarnations for these to be brought through fully because it's all based on the level of consciousness of humanity and it being the right time for these paths and practices and systems to be brought forward. By tuning into and connecting to those from those previous incarnations, it helps you bring them forward into this incarnation. I have read for so many people who have not only this ancient wisdom within them, but also these blueprints for new modalities and new practices to be brought forward at certain times of the collective consciousness getting to a certain level. And it's so exciting to see because I just know how many people they are going to help with these systems. Number 8 is that you are just absolutely sick and tired of living an ego-led life. You know that you are constantly reacting, you're a product of your programming and conditioning. You know the ego is in control and you want to start embodying more of your soul. You want to start moving towards that highest timeline. In the Akashic Records, you're able to connect to you on the highest timeline and find out what work you have to do to get to that highest timeline. There's so many different timelines open and available to you that you can start connecting to when you work in the Akashic Records. And it's about not only understanding how the ego is in control, what programming conditioning you need to release and how to do that, all of which you can work with in your Akashic Records, but then also finding the active steps that have been taken to help you get into alignment to that. The more time you spend in the Akashic Records, the more time you're going to be connecting to your soul, your higher self, your highest guides, which gives the ego less power and less control. So if you're just stuck in these loops and you're just repeating the same things, the same relationships, the same awful jobs over and over again, and you know that you want to make big changes, the Akashic Records can be a really helpful tool for you to do that. Number 9 is for those of you who are running your own business, whether it's an Akashic Records business or any other type of business. Doesn't have to be Akashic Records, doesn't even have to be spiritual. But you want to start working with your Akashic Records business guides. Every business has an Akashic Records, and when you work with your Akashic Records business guides, you're able to see your business from a much bigger picture perspective. This can be really helpful if, like me, you are the only person in your business, you're a solopreneur. And sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming with just the amount of stuff you have to do, the amount of different hats you have to wear when you're running your own business. Having the Akashic Records business guides there is so, so helpful just to be able to get different opinions and perspectives. Sometimes you might be thinking of an idea and you might think, I don't really know how to bring this into fruition. I know that this wants to come through, and you can pop into your Akashic Records business guides and say, okay, help me understand the steps that I need to take to bring this into fruition. They're going to give you that much more objective perspective. Oftentimes, especially I see this with women a lot, they're very emotionally involved in their businesses, and it can take some time before they can emotionally detach and see the business from a more objective perspective. And it can just help to have that extra guidance there. Equally, if you are someone who is a creative, a songwriter, an artist, a writer, any form of creative activity can be supported by opening up your Akashic Records. If you're finding that you're hitting roadblocks, as everybody does when it comes to working with the creative energy, one of the ways that you can help this is by opening up your Akashic Records and then undertaking the creative activity whilst you're in your Akashic Records. It can really help to put the fears, the doubts, the ego behavior aside and just allow that higher wisdom, that inspiration, the imagination energy all to move through much smoother, which of course is then going to help you create more. Number 10 might be a little bit more niche. It might only be for people who are like me, but I'm one of those people who I get bored very, very quickly. It used to get me into a lot of trouble at school. I would learn a topic, I'd learn everything I could about a topic, and then that was it. It was the end of the story, and then the boredom would set in. When you work with the Akashic Records, your practice is going to deepen and evolve as you deepen and evolve on a personal level. I absolutely love the fact that no matter how much time I have spent in the Akashic Records, there's always more to learn. There's always more ways to grow and evolve. For those of you who are out there who are like me, who just get bored very quickly and want to work with a practice that is going to evolve as they do, then the Akashic Records are a really good fit for you. I hope that this episode has convinced you all that you should learn how to work with your own Akashic Records. Whether that's with me or not is completely a resonance thing. Some of you might be sat here listening and you may feel like, okay, I'm going to go off and I'm going to do this by myself, and that's completely okay. And I would encourage you to do that. For those of you who do resonate with me, the style, how I share things, then I would love to see you at the next training. If you're listening to this episode when it goes live, the next training will be February. If you're listening to this later, you can always pop over to my website and the training dates will be on there. I do run my level 1 course a number of times live through the year online, and I would of course love to see you all there. I will pop the link to the training details in the show notes. I hope that you all have a restful weekend. We are in December and hibernation energy is very much kicking in. So please do give yourself time out during the holiday season, during the chaos of Christmas, if you celebrate, and honor the energy that is asking you just to slow down and rest a little bit at this time of year. Take care, and I will see you all next week for the next episode.